one man, but the mixture of all of us inside of God. But what's important here is that it's not simply about our identity, strictly speaking, about how we classify things. Because as we saw with racial thinking and the interracial life and passing, it's also about how you exhibit this life, how you walk through these things. And so what's really interesting is that Jesus' life as well actually exhibits a kind of disruptive life. So what does he do? But he, at every moment in his life, is always holding on to both of these things, both of these realities as God and man in everything that he does. And in the process, what does he do but piss off a whole lot of people, right? Because the Pharisees say, you can't do that. You cannot say that about yourself. Only God can say that. And Jesus says, before he was, I am. What? And you're like, But what is Jesus doing? He is enacting a different way of imagining not just what God can do, but a different way of imagining what humanity can do, what humanity can be. But in the midst of this, of Jesus overturning things, transgressing boundaries, doing things in ways that he shouldn't be doing them, this ultimately results in consequences very much like mulatto folks. What do? They kill him. Right? The Pharisees, Pontius Pilate, they kill him. Why? Because he threatens their notions of purity. He threatens their notions of what it means to be a Jew, to be a Roman. We cannot allow that kind of transgression to live. And yet Jesus, what does he do? Goes resurrection on him. You can't hold this. Right? What does he do? But he takes death, puts it inside of his body and says, death too is a part of me. I can hold life and death in the same person. He takes mulatto and makes it not just his identity, but in the tomb becomes a point of conception, such that we are born inside of it. And through the baptismal waters, we are literally born out of the mixture of water and blood shed for us. So Jesus is what I call a mulattic existence. It is an existence that disrupts through its very presence. Because what does it do but always holds together these seeming impossibilities and then reorders them in a way that declares God's possibilities in our lives. So Jesus is resurrected. We are born anew. So part of my aim in this book is to suggest that Jesus' mulatto body not only reveals to us the idolatry of race, but even more so requires us to account for our own bodies as remade, conceived in the tomb, made alive in the resurrection, and birthed through the waters of baptism, to be a strange people, mixed of flesh and spirit, who inhabit their lives and their hopes in a disruptive way. So I go on to talk a little bit about this in terms of rebirth as baptism, of a politics of presence as prayer. Prayer as a thing, as a space that we inhabit, not as an individual kind of lifting up of hopes, but as a radical instantiation of this mixture. We pray for others so that they can become a part of us. So, in all, I hope we can begin to see how mulatto Jesus is not the attempt to say, what I look like is what all people should look like. I don't want everyone to look like me. God forbid. Right? Instead, the claim that Jesus is mulatto is perhaps even more frightening. Yes, more frightening than looking like me. That we do not know who our children will look like. That we do not know who our brothers and sisters will be. But this much is true. This possibility, the possibility of strange-looking children, should become a reality in our churches. In churches of people who do not seem to go together, who fight for causes that seem unnatural to them. We are disciples of Christ when we live into what it means to be bodies set aflame with the Spirit and lights in a dark world, when our bodies become different. And so here's the fundamental thing about redeeming mulatto, about mulatto theology. It is not about my body. It is not about mixed folks. It makes a very simple claim. It suggests that if you are Christian, you are a mixed person. And then together we have to think about what that looks like. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I look forward to your questions and your thoughts.
All right. Let's thank you again, Brian, for that. Man, I think we could have gone on for a little bit longer. So we look forward to perhaps another opportunity. This is an important conversation for sure. What we'd like to do tonight is definitely leave a lot of space for you to perhaps ask some questions, to engage with Brian. Tally and I are here just to kind of maybe start that off a little bit with some questions. And then we'll have a couple of people that will walk around with microphones on. I think that will make our conversation and evening even that much more substantive and rich. So, Tally, you want a question or observation?
Yeah, question. Test, mic test. Good. All right, there we go. Thank you. Dr. Bantom, I hear you saying, and I've read the book, that the identity of Jesus speaks to both my discipleship as a Christian and to racial myths of superiority, purity, and preservation? Mm-hmm. How so? I mean, I don't mean how so simplistically, but specifically racial myths as to, because most evangelical Christians understand the identity of Jesus as it speaks to their discipleship, their Christian discipleship, their walk with Christ. Maybe they do. But how does it speak to racial myths?
Well, this is the thing. Part of the argument in the earlier part of the book is to suggest that how we structure our lives, how we live our daily lives, where we live, where we go to church, who we love, is probably more determined by our racial imagination than by our church, by Jesus. Jesus doesn't have anything to do with who you love, who you desire, who you look at twice. Doesn't have anything to do with where you decide to go to church, right? What has to do with where you go to church but where you feel comfortable? These are my people. In fact, we are more formed by race than by Jesus. But this is the thing, is like, by virtue, and if Jesus just wanted to redeem our thought and our ideas, then Jesus could have come as a heavenly book, right? A kind of cloud speaking, zapping people with lightning. That would have been really exciting, right? But what does he do? He takes on our bodies. Not just any body, but a Jewish body. A Jewish body, right? And lives inside that kind of life. But then, the crazy thing is, he invites other non-Jews into that life, into that possibility. So here the very structure of discipleship is about following. And so then the question is, and this is part of, I talk a little about race as a kind of religious construct. The question is, who are we following right now? who are we really indebted to? Who do we really believe about ourselves? And this is part of the wonder of interracial folk, is that